So today I listened to Dokutsu, the most recent EP from Japanese producer Foodman. My interest in Foodman's music began when I found a playlist of his on the NTS website a few months ago. His sound is very strange, but I think it's pretty welcome. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like a stripped back version of the songs of R+7 or Replica, which are albums by an artist called Oneohtrix Point Never. Just kind of that same idea of found sounds and constructing them in such a way that seems very organic but also synthetic at the same time. The origins of Foodman's music kind of lie in his involvement with the Japanese footwork and juke scenes over the past few years. And if you're not familiar with what footwork and juke music are, they're basically these very fast-paced, very syncopated styles of dance music that originated in Chicago, and specifically the Chicago ghetto house scene back in the 2000s. I'll try to put a playlist in the description for you to kind of get a taste of what that sounds like, but just know it's very fast-paced and a lot of syncopated rhythms. Foodman kind of takes those qualities of syncopation and very odd rhythms and still manages to turn them on their heads to make something even more bizarre with his sound. It's very playful oftentimes. It's very kind of alien, very illogical. Some of his music sounds like this. Some of his music also sounds like this. And other times sounds like this. So there you have it. With this new EP, he kind of takes his unique musical perspective and scattershot sensibilities and applies them to a realm of house music and IDM, if you want to call it that. As a whole, the EP is very playful, and it feels as though it could be like a forgotten video game soundtrack from years and years ago. The songs on it range from abrasive to airy, and from earthly to alien. The first track on the EP, Kazunoko, really comes out of the gates punching and putting its best foot forward, I think. It's got this sort of swelly and swingy house groove populated by a lot of these different synthetic and organic sounds, a lot of drum machine sounds in it, blah, blah, blah. It's almost like a song that's in infinite ascension. It's got these, really airy pad swells that, create this pulse in the song that just keeps going. It feels like you're rising and you're rising and you're rising. And then the chord change happens, and it's just even more so of this just like feeling, This is probably the most familiar sound on the album for you if you've never heard experimental music before. It's a good one. I think it's a great way to start the album off. The next song on the album, Hirake Tobira, really turns the wackiness up. If you thought that first track was weird, this is going to really throw you for a loop. The most prominent aspect of the song is probably the grunty vocal sample that cuts in and out pretty much for the entirety of the song. You can almost make out the words that it's trying to say, but it's still so alien and so uncanny that you can never quite figure it out. The rest of the soundscape of the song is really industrial, kind of pipey, very reverby. You have this really interesting siren sample that comes in intermittently, and it doesn't even play the full sample. It just is like, it cuts off before it trails. It really adds to that uncanny nature of the song that will keep you intrigued throughout. It's almost like a hidden level type beat. The track that follows that, Imo Hori, brings us back into the dancey realm of things with a really fat kick and a lot of kind of tropical sort of sounds. The song becomes gradually a bit more groovy and a bit more driving as the percussive elements accumulate. There's the return to the drum machine samples and a bit more organic stuff that comes in. It feels as though you're almost walking through a malfunctioning funhouse and there's no end to it all. You're just trapped in here and going around these corners every which way. The track that follows, Oshiro, kind of trades in those industrial sounds for something a bit more mysterious and feather light in its sound. This is a song that sounds like it could be straight out of a late 90s or early 2000s video game, maybe something for the Dreamcast or the PS2. It almost sounds as though it could be the soundtrack to perhaps a boss fight as well. So a lot of intrigue going on there. Konomi kind of builds upon the excitement that was introduced in Oshiro and almost makes it a bit more triumphant. You've got these really interesting plucks and breathy kind of chords that are oscillating throughout, very artificial and very organic, once again, the common theme here. This song feels like you're racing against somebody on the beach on foot, while the sun's setting, and just a really, really serene scene. And then right at the halfway point of the song, you have these hopeful pads really just emerge and engulf your ears. This one's probably my favorite track on the EP. And perhaps the most contrasting element of this album is the closer, Kachi Kachi. This song is such a stark left turn from Konomi in that it feels like you fell down while you were running on that beach, but you didn't fall into the sand, you fell into a void where you cannot get out and you're being chased by some strange force that you can't even see. It's really, really industrial and really murky kind of beat. It's this really clicky and syrupy-like soundscape it just pulses throughout. There's not much in terms of rising and falling action on this song, which musically can make it a bit less interesting to most people. And I think, I wish maybe I got a little bit more out of the track if it had, some more bangerific qualities with how just dark it goes. But at the same time, it does work as this really interesting nihilistic ending to an album that, for the most part, is comparatively pretty optimistic and hopeful. And I think this works because Foodman often says that he is inspired by real life. So if we're going by that, sometimes life isn't fair, right? We're gonna have all the positive songs, and then from out of nowhere, we're gonna get something that's really just dark and negative for no reason that we can't even explain. And I think it works even more interestingly if you have the album on repeat. So then you go right back to the first track, which is just this really familiar, really nostalgic kind of swelly sort of sound. Overall, I would definitely recommend this album to anybody who is trying to dip their feet into the experimental realm. I'm not sure I would classify it as chillback music or background music. I think it's something that you might have to listen to just with all your attention on it. Maybe you could do it as chillback music. I think I could, but for you, the experience maybe differs. But yeah, let me know what you think about the album in the comments, and I'll see you next time.